Okay, it seems that we are live. Hello, everyone. This is Rachel speaking from Auckland, New Zealand. We have Dan and Betty joining with us today to share about what's the upcoming auction on the Karura network on top of Kusama. The context today will be quite straightforward. So Dan gonna give us a walkthrough about what Polkadot is, what Kusama network is, what's the advantage of like building on top of Polkadot and Kusama. And then I'm gonna walk through with you guys what we have built for the Acala network and the Karura network. What's the DeFi shot? What's the DeFi future will look like on top of Kusama and on top of Polkadot? And then Betty gonna actually go on through with us the actual auction process with a set of like very fine details on how the auction is gonna take place, how you can participate. And without further ado, let's invite Dan in the stage to talk about Polkadot and Kusama.
Cool, thanks for your talk. I think the first slide is actually the agenda, and you just kind of covered that. So I guess really quick, like Rutao said, we'll start out with Polkadot and Kusama. So that's what I'm going to get into now. We figured that it was good to start kind of at the highest level or the lowest level, depending on how you want to look at this. But Polkadot and Kusama are really the infrastructure layers on which Acala and Karura are being built. So I'll start with that and just give a little bit of background on what Polkadot is, what Kusama is if you're not aware, and then we'll move into the rest. So starting out, so Polkadot, for many of you, you're probably aware of generally what Polkadot is and is doing. But Polkadot at its core is basically a network of networks connecting several customized blockchains built with a framework called Substrate in order to create this massive ecosystem of blockchains that can communicate with one another and who also inherit network security from this relay chain of Polkadot. Breaking this down at the most simple level, there's about 6 kind of key aspects of Polkadot to remember, and I'll go through those really quickly. So I already mentioned connecting blockchains together. That's the kind of the word you've heard over the last couple of years of interoperability between blockchains. Polkadot is also highly scalable. So the way the network is built, each blockchain and also each blockchain working together can achieve quite a bit of scalability versus what we've seen previously with kind of solo networks. Plug and play security is an interesting and kind of underappreciated aspect of Polkadot. As a development team, say Acala, for example, the team didn't have to actually go out and recruit a whole set of tens or hundreds of validators to secure the network. By doing a parachain auction and actually connecting to Polkadot's network, all those validators that Polkadot already has are helping secure Acala's blockchain instead of Acala having to do that work itself. Bottom left here is enabling customized blockchains. So this goes back to what I mentioned with Substrate. So Substrate helps a lot of these development teams build custom blockchains that are meant for specific use cases. So in Acala's case and Karura's case, it's built and optimized specifically for DeFi. So imagine Ethereum being built specifically with DeFi in mind instead of the current setup where it's kind of trying to do everything, from insurance to gaming to DeFi. I really believe that whether you're going after DeFi or any other vertical, using Substrate is actually going to make you a lot more effective with the blockchain you're building. A couple more quickly. On-chain governance. There's probably a whole presentation we could do around that, but just avoiding the small group or single founder making all the decisions. And then last, avoiding forks by Polkadot's ability to kind of self-upgrade. So Kusama, I've already covered all of these, which is why they're kind of blackened out or darkened here, because all the same aspects of Polkadot, the same value adds that Polkadot brings, Kusama also brings too. The networks are virtually the exact same code base. Kusama is referred to as Polkadot's cousin network or a canary network, where after things have been tested on the testnet, they will move to Kusama. They'll be kind of hardened and refined on Kusama and then eventually move to Polkadot. So first kind of little bird here, the high risk appetite. So because Kusama's code is Polkadot's code moving from testnet to Kusama first before Polkadot, there comes a little bit more risk because the code hasn't quite been tested as much as it will be before it moves to Polkadot. Second, so this is one of the reasons for Karura choosing to launch exclusively on Kusama, because at the end of the day now, there's a big community for Polkadot and also a very big and thriving community for Kusama. So there's going to be demand for DeFi applications, liquidity, and so on Kusama. So that's what Karura is being built for. And then, of course, Acala serving that purpose on Polkadot. And then last, the fast governance cycles. So Kusama's governance runs on a 7-day cycle, which means that upgrades can be pushed quickly. Teams can kind of work through kind of different variations in their code and make sure everything is moving quickly before they move to Polkadot, and things kind of take a little bit longer because it's more conservative and what have you. So next slide is really just an image to show you that Polkadot and Kusama, although separate networks today, are soon going to be bridged as well. So all the assets that you have and are playing with on Acala on top of Polkadot will eventually be bridged over to Kusama and Karura and everything else built on these two networks. So really excited to see how this year plays out in the next 10 years between these networks and seeing everything kind of thriving between Polkadot and Kusama. So with that, I'll hand it back, or I guess I'll finish this slide, Rui-Tao, and then I'll hand it over to you. So quickly just going through some of these numbers, Polkadot and Kusama's market cap really just shows, honestly, it shows how secure these networks have become. The higher the market cap, the more value backing the network and securing the network. So I think that's important to cover. There's a huge ecosystem of teams now. Polkaproject.com is a great way to see all the teams building in the ecosystem. Tons of validators. I know we're scaling up to 1,000 on Kusama and hoping to do the same for Polkadot. TPS is, I believe last I talked to Bill Laboon at Web3 was around 166,000 TPS is what they're seeing in test results. So huge capacity for transactions on Polkadot and Kusama. And then last, just the infinite possibilities through the governance cycles that I mentioned and the ability to self-upgrade. So there's no need to fork if there needs to be a change to the underlying infrastructure of Polkadot or Kusama. That can basically happen overnight in a very easy fashion versus trying to fork and split the community, and everyone knows what comes with that. So let's hand it over to Rui-Tao to get into Acala and show you guys a demo actually. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. That's a very thorough overview of what Polkadot and Kusama enable us, like builder like us, able to build on top of Kusama and on top of Polkadot. So, I mean, we are a team of true believer in the decentralized future, and we would like to reimagine what you are able to do if you have the flexibility to build a network from the scratch with the full flexibility to customize every logic on the core blockchain level. So we believe the future is going towards specialization. We believe the future is going to be interconnected blockchain, a multiple network, inter-blockchain money Lego. So the Acala network or the Karura network, they are all built with the same philosophy that a network need to be specialized, need to be fine-tuned for one particular domain or one particular use cases. In the Acala's cases, we are built and specialized parachain fine-tuned for finance. So the Acala network, in a nutshell, is built in with a set of financial core primitive or offering or building block that is by itself has a lot of utility for traders, for holders to tap into and start to benefit from trading in a decentralized way. So in a nutshell, the Acala network consists of like 4 core primitives. One of the in the centerpieces of the Acala network or the Karura network is the multi-character stablecoin. Stablecoin is the centerpieces of DeFi of Polkadot. It will enable the whole DeFi space to become reality in the Polkadot and in the Kusama network. Besides the stablecoin, we have also created a built-in decentralized exchange. The reason that we choose to create a built-in decentralized exchange, not only it's going to be useful for trader to trade, it also can be served as the unified source of liquidity to enable a lot of other very exciting features, which I'm going to show you in the upcoming demo. Besides that, we also built a liquid staking derivative, which we call it liquid dot, or L dot for short. The reason that we built a liquid staking derivative on top of the stablecoin and on top of the decentralized chains is because all these protocols, they interact with each other, they complement each other. So think about when you stake, when you use dot as collateral or use Kusama as collateral, you are essentially giving out opportunity cost. But if you have a staking derivative, you can be earning the staking reward while creating a loan. So that's why we built this set of financial primitives built in the chain level to enable DeFi become a reality in Kusama and Polkadot. And ultimately, there's also a decentralized sovereign wealth fund built in. That's what we see a very unique design in Kusama and the Polkadot network, which I'm going to share later regarding how this decentralized sovereign wealth fund is going to interact with the Parachain auction process in the enable the Karura network and Acala network at some stage to become self-sustainable on top of Kusama and Polkadot network. And beside all these financial primitives that we built, the Acala or the Karura network is also a platform. It has EVM capability built in. That means smart contract could be deployed on top of what we built. They might support Ink smart contract, which is the native smart contract of the substrate at some stage. That means this developer is able to tap in and reuse what we built to, for example, reprogram the L dot protocol to create even more meaningful products on top of the Karura and the Acala network. We can imagine a lending protocol being built on top of the Acala network or the Karura network. We can imagine a prediction market or even something more wild, such as like a staking derivative product, some sort of even more likely like yield aggregator to be built on top of the network. So those is the story behind what the actual product that we have built, or what the actual protocol that we have built. We have been running the testnet. We've been pushing very aggressively on the development side on the Acala and the Karura network in the past 1.5 years. And we are very fortunate enough to be able to have a great community, a great following of community. Currently, we have 90,000 community members. thanks for all of you. And there's a lot of very, very nice number that we are able to test out today, which is like there's 45,000 accounts already created on our testnets. There's over 500,000 transactions that's already been carried out on our testnets. Our ecosystem partner is growing day by day, so there's a lot of our friends that we built together in pushing the whole Polkadot and the whole Acala ecosystem. We're able to source we're able to team up with a lot of solid builders in the space. Some of our infrastructure backers, some of them are funds, some of them is other projects building on top of Polkadot. We believe the future, as I said, is interconnected, and this is like a win-win situation for all the builders to build together. It is never a zero-sum game. It's actually a 1 + 1 larger than 2 story. This is a very early stage of the DeFi movement, and every one of the builders that's building the DeFi space are companions, are friends. We are pushing the idea of decentralization, of asset ownership, of censorship resistance to the wider general audience that haven't actually get on DeFi yet. We believe the whole financial system at some stage will be operating on top of blockchain. And we think we achieve a lot thanks to the community members. We're actually quite agile, and I would say that a small team. Pretty much all of the team members are high achievers, are very, very great at doing what they are doing. That's very, very fortunate. We also have a pretty much distributed team as well. So I'm in Auckland, some of the co-founders in Auckland. We have team member contributing from the United States. We have team member contributing from Albania in the Europe. We have team member from Singapore and China. So we are shut up like global from day one. We're adapting to this. We believe is the new culture of how we can cooperate and work together. So that's great. Thanks for all the contributors, and we're also growing. So if you're interested, do follow us and check out what's actually what we have in terms of like the to join this movement. And without further ado, I think it's the best way to demonstrate what we have built is to actually show a live demo. As I said, our testnet has been running for I think over 5 months, and it's been polished day by day, and we are pretty much already feature complete. So I'm going to walk you through of like the core offering of the Acala platform, and then show some unique innovation that we've done in designing this this network. And keep in mind, the same set of code base is going to deploy on Kusama. That's what we call the Karura network. I'm using the Acala Mandala testnet as one of the test version of the network, but the same set of code is going to deploy on Kusama, and that's the Karura network. It's going to have some more experimental or more aggressive in terms of governance, but the core idea behind this is the same. So in a nutshell, this is the front-end tab to navigate in the Acala shard. This is the centerpieces of the Acala shard. It's a stable coin. It's a decentralized stable coin. The stable coin is backed by crypto, and pretty much you can use Bitcoin, you can use stocks, you can use Kusama, you can use any other mature asset that will be available within the Kusama network or Polkadot network to use as crypto to generate stable coin. So in my cases, in my demo account, I've characterized 0.4 RAM BTC, which is one of our partners. So RAM BTC can be bridged to Karura network and can be also bridged to Acala network. I'm actually going to generate a little bit more because I feel that I'm quite safe with the characterization ratio. So I'm going to sign this transaction. And this is the MetaMask equivalent on Polkadot. It's a signer, allow you to sign transactions. So, and you can see how fast the performance is. This is the power of a proof of stake network. So I just getting $50 more in my position. I can be this is multi-crypto from day one. I can deposit more crypto. I can withdraw more crypto. I can also use any other assets. You can see this. You can use stocks. You can use LDOT. You can use XBDC, which is the to be coined back by Chainax, and any other asset that will be available in the Polkadot shard once they are proven to be secure can be added as crypto. So once I have the stable coin, what I'm going to do is that I can immediately trade in the built-in decentralized exchange. So I can say that I would like to trade like $10 for some ACA token. I can do a swap, and this is how you trade. This is very likely going to be the first decentralized exchange to live on top of Kusama and Polkadot, and it's a Uniswap type of exchange, an AMM type of exchange. Anyone able to trade in a trustless way, anyone able to add liquidity in a trustless way, and withdraw liquidity in a trustless way. And behind the stablecoin pieces and the decentralized exchange pieces, there's also the liquid staking pieces, which is a staking derivative product that we built on Kusama and on Polkadot. In these cases, we are using DOTs as example. So think about a trustless staking pool. Everyone is able to deposit DOTs into this trustless staking pool and get mint LDOT token. LDOT token is a representation of your share in the pool in a trustless way. And as the pool is growing in size because the pool is receiving staking reward from validating in the Polkadot ecosystem, LDOT is able to redeem for more and more DOT over time. So LDOT is the yield-bearing token for the DOT token. And obviously, in the Karura network, it's going to be KSM and LKSM. The advantage of holding LDOT is that you can unstake anytime, so you can redeem your DOT or redeem your KSM back. There's also a number of ways for you to redeem. You can redeem to say that I would like to redeem and wait for the standard unbounding period, or you will say that I would like to redeem and withdraw my DOT immediately by paying a small fraction of fee. And holding LDOT or holding LKSM is able to, well, it's liquid, so you can transfer it to someone else without actually unbounding the DOT or KSM or your stake position. And the best of it is that how this work together. So if you want to borrow against your DOT position, or if you want to borrow against your Kusama position, essentially you are giving out the staking rewards. But with Acala or with Karura, it's no longer the case because we can happily accept LDOT as the crypto for you to generate stablecoin. So I'm happy to say that I'm gonna deposit some of my LDOT tokens, and then I can start to borrow against my stake position. And if the market is the right trend, you are essentially earning staking reward while have utility value out of your stakes, your Kusama and DOT holding. The decentralized exchange is also not only you can trade, it also serves as unified source of liquidity for the whole shard. And one use case of the decentralized exchange is that because it's a unified source of liquidity. So if a position in the stablecoin protocol becomes risky. On other systems, you might have to incentivize liquidator to go through the auction process and bid for the collector. But in the Acala shard, actually, that could happen automatically because collector can be liquidated automatically in the decentralized exchange. That means supplying liquidity into the decentralized exchange, not only can earning liquidity provider fee, you might also eligible for some of the liquidation reward as well. And the power of like to build a blockchain from scratch, able to customize to its core level logic, give us a lot of innovative features that's otherwise very, very hard to achieve on other layer one or other public ledger. I'm going to show an use case or actual breakthrough that we're able to do with the power of customization. I'm going to show an account that's like, it's very common scenario that you are brand new into the Acala shard. You have no other asset except probably you teleport some of your Bitcoin position. You have no other token. In other blockchain, you might have to acquire some native token to pay gas fee so you can carry forward on transactions. But in Acala, I can happily, the system happily can allow me to transact without any short of native token as gas fee. So I'm going to actually use my 0.1 Bitcoin as crypto and generate a loan. I have no other tokens, but I'm still able to do that. The reason that this is possible is because while I'm transacting, the decentralized exchange, the DEX, built-in DEX actually act as a global reserve for me to actually liquidate a fraction of my RMBDC and exchange for the native token. So that means I'm essentially paying a fraction, a tiny bit of the RMBDC as the gas fee, so I can navigate through this network without acquiring any short of foreign token. And same story for the AUSD. That essentially means if I'm transferring AUSD to someone else, I can happily pay AUSD as the gas fee. And this is just the beginning of the customization power that we're able to harvest from the substrate network. There's a lot more other customizability that we can see when we slowly roll out the network. Imagine that if you have a smart contract, you might not want to pay when you are interacting with that smart contract in native fee. We imagine that you might be eligible for some free transaction if you hold certain amount of tokens. So all those become reality. And that's why we think the future is going to be interconnected blockchain. The future is going to be specialization. The future is going to be like a network customized for one particular usage. And in our cases, we believe that we make the first move to customize the network for finance, and we just can't wait to use this product. So even as the team, as a contributor building on this protocol, we can't wait to actually use it day by day or something like that. So that's pretty much the overview of the product offering of the Karura network and the Acala shard. And without further ado, I think it's Betty's time to actually share what is the actual auction process, how the actual go live process is going to look like on the Karura network. So yeah, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let's invite Betty on the stage.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. So let me just share my screen now. Cool. So everyone can see my share screen and can hear me okay?
Looks good.
Cool. Yeah, so hi everyone, and just a reminder that all of this are recorded. I think it's also going to be available on YouTube. So even you come in halfway through, you can still watch it later. So let's talk about Karura, right? And also the launch process. I think it's why most of us are here today, is trying to learn about how we're going to launch, and then how more importantly, how you can participate and support us as well. So firstly, just another sort of reminder of what is Karura. So Karura is Acala's sister network. So think about Karura to Acala as sort of similar to Kusama to Polkadot, right? And so Karura is going to be launched on Kusama as a parachain, and it will be the DeFi hub and also the stablecoin platform, and also offering all those DeFi products that Rachel just showed you guys for the Kusama community. And why do we actually need Karura? So as you can actually see, from Dan and also Reitao's introduction, Kusama and Polkadot are actually two different, very distinct mainnet. And they are very likely to have very different projects, parachains, dApps, launching on the two networks, right? And also because of the nature of Kusama, it's probably going to attract more experimental applications and some of the lower security requirement apps, for example, maybe social network or some other dApps, is going to launch mainnet on Kusama and skip Polkadot. But some other applications that require band-grade security might still need to be launched on Polkadot. So you can see those two, already start to split into two different community, two different ecosystem. So in any case, as the DeFi infrastructure layer, like Acala, we will have to launch on both to actually serve both communities and also serve all those applications on the two networks. And you can probably just think about it in this way, like Acala just opened a branch on Kusama and also open another branch later on Polkadot. And then the branch we open on Kusama is called Karura, right? So there you have it. And then on Karura, as you may know, the network token is KR, and it will be performed for various different utilities that will go into a bit more detail later, so you all know how to use it. And then obviously, on Karura, as Reitao have already shown you, it's going to use KSM as collateral for our stablecoin, and it's going to generate like KUSD. And also, it's going to create a number of different utilities. So folks who holds KSM or in the Kusama community, there's a DEX that they can list their token and trade. And we're also going to provide the trustless liquid staking for KSM. So, folks can actually use their liquid KSM for other usages in DeFi. Right. So there's going to be quite a number of activities going on. Hopefully, we can support the Kusama community to grow in that way. So that's like the main, functionality wise, why Karura needs to exist to help Kusama to also bootstrap its parachain ecosystem as well. And of course, to actually launch on Kusama, similar to launch on Polkadot, there is a parachain auction process, right? And it's also why most of you are here to support us, because we are going to run a community-backed launch. And I will go into a bit more detail how the process actually happened, what are the steps, and also at which point we will like you to support us, right? And then also on this chart, on the right-hand side, it's basically, quite a mirror from Karura. So whatever we've launched on Kusama, we're going to use the same code base and launch on Polkadot. But of course, due to the different nature of the two network, the risk parameters might be different, and also the governance might be more stricter on Polkadot, etc. So things will be slightly different. And also in terms of the launch process, by and large, it will be similar. So today, once you learn about how we're going to launch on Kusama, it's very similar when we launch on Polkadot. But of course, we're going to have some lessons learned through the Karura launch process, and we're going to fine tune it for Polkadot. But certainly we'll share all of those once we've gone through this process. And here you go. So here is the Karura launch process. So I've kind of simplified into 4 steps so everyone can actually, hopefully can understand how it works. And then this is the sort of the sequence of events that will happen on the blockchain, right? And then the white boxes indicate events that will happen on the Kusama chain. So from now on, I'm just going to use Kusama. I'm not going to keep talking Kusama or Polkadot and confuse everybody. So now I'm specifically talking about how we're going to launch on Kusama for the Karura chain. So the white boxes indicate events that will happen on Kusama chain, and then the red ones indicate events that will happen on the Karura chain once it's launched. And then what is going to happen is there will be this auction process that Kusama is going to enable for folks to compete for a slot to launch their parachain, because there's limited number of slots available. And then before the auction actually happen, we will actually enable, Kusama is going to enable the crowd loan module for us to, accept support from the community. So the first thing that happened on the blockchain is the crowd loan module that's going to be available. And this is where everyone will be sending their KSM to be locked on this module. And then on this module, it will be particularly stated, this is the Karura crowd loan module, because each project will start their own crowd loan, and then to support the auction that they are going into. And then this crowd loan module is going to be run on chain for a period of time before the actual Parachain auction happens. So we will be sure to inform everyone at least probably 2 weeks beforehand, because I'm sure everyone's kind of staking their KSM. There's an unlocking period. So we'll inform everyone well before time, so that you can actually be on, first to actually, put your support into the crowd loan module on the Kusama chain. And then I'll actually go into a bit more detail for each step, what is going to happen and some of the caveats and things like that. But I think, the main thing is like, I'll actually explain the mechanism so that we can actually explain the thinking behind how we can collectively increase our chances of winning the auction, because that's the whole point, right? Because once that we can win the auction and we can launch the network, and that's the point where everybody, like the participants, can get their reward based on their support. So that's what's going to happen. And then once we win the auction, obviously there will be Karura will be launched, and then there will be network genesis happen, and then the event happen after that, so there will be reward distributed. But of course, if we didn't win the auction, all of the KSM funds that you lock into the crowdfund module will be automatically refunded back to your address. So then I'll just like go into a little bit more detail, right? So the first step is the crowd loan module will be available for Karura's Parachain launch. And then the whole point is like, we actually think this crowdsource. So step back a little bit. It's like, you don't have to go through a crowd loan or crowdsourced approach to participate in the auction. You could just have a whale, or you just like, as a project, you just buy a whole bunch of KSM, and then you can just participate in the auction and win the auction yourself, right? So certainly that's one route that maybe some of the project will take for whatever reason. But from Acala's perspective, we actually think this crowdsourced approach will actually help us in a way to bootstrap our community as well as our network. But because, for the reason being, most of you will probably be already KSM holders as a part of the Kusama or Polkadot community member. And then, you are willing to actually support Acala to help us launch and gain access to Kusama's shared security, right? This is the whole point of launching the Parachain on Kusama. So I think, from this perspective, this is the ideal community that we would like to welcome into Karura, and then grow the network together, right? And then in a way, also grow Kusama together. And then by having the support from the community, we will then distribute the KAR token, so the network token for Karura, to all the participants based on the level of the support that they provide. I will provide more detail on the numbers and stuff later. So then all the participants will end up with So basically, all the participants at the end of the lease, they will actually get their KSM back, right? So remember, you actually lock your KSM in a crowd loan module, and no one can actually touch it. So the project team, like Acala, cannot touch it. It's all locked on this trustless or permissionless module. So end of the day, right? Once everything ends, the participants will end up with their KSM back, and plus all the KAR rewards that we are giving out. And the project doesn't actually get any funding. So this is not a fundraising event, but we actually get a chance. So we very much appreciate that. So we get a chance to deliver, able to launch our network and deliver all the products that Reitao showed you guys. And then if we actually end up delivering all our promises, the platform creates value. And then it will be a win-win-win situation, right? Because as participant or as a community member, you certainly win, right? And then of course, as a project team, we win because we've delivered something. And of course, the Kusama and to a larger extent, the Polkadot community also wins. So we actually believe this is like a new way of bootstrapping network, a more fair way of bootstrapping network, protecting the participants and community, but also incentivizes the project team to do a good work and actually deliver rather than just fundraising. So ultimately, if we didn't deliver, you still get all your KSM back, right? And then, but of course, you lost a bit of the opportunity to use all those KSMs for to support other projects or just purely staking. So I guess as thinking rationally, you'll probably make those judgments how you want to put your KSM in the good places, and without just purely looking at the so-called arbitrary returns, right? So you probably want to back a good project that has a high success rate that you think, and also a higher chances that are able to win the auction along the way as well. So I'll just leave you at that. And then, so I've kind of talked through all of that already. And just when you actually participate in the putting the KSM into the crowd loan module, obviously all the information will be recorded on chain, and that is also the information that we are based on when we later distribute the KR returns, right? So I'll go into the numbers in a couple of slides later. And then, of course, for those who joining this call, there's also a bit of preview that during the crowd loan event, we will actually draw some lotteries. So just to spice up the event, right? So it's going to be a happy event, right? If things goes well, we're going to launch. That's everything that we hope for, and then hopefully everybody participate will also get something in return for their support. So there will be lottery event that it's going to draw some lucky winners, and there will be additional KR be distributed to the lucky winners at unannounced times. But of course, if when the Parachain lease ends, or in certain cases, the auction we didn't actually successfully win the auction, all the funds will be returned to you automatically on Kusama. So we kind of briefly touched why auction, right? Because there's limited Parachain slots. You kind of need a market mechanism for folks to compete for a slot. So that's why the auction mechanism. And then the specific auction mechanism used by Kusama or Polkadot is called candle auction. So you can Google it and read about all the history. It's kind of interesting, but the main point I'm going to point out is two things. Is like normal auction. Everyone will kind of wait for the last minute to bid, right? So you usually get the best bid or the price discovery at the very end. So a lot of times it's not quite a fair bid, right, for folks to come into the auction. So this candle auction is kind of trying to avoid that it's going to choose a random end time. So when the auction happens, imagine there are a number of bidders happening throughout the auction process, and then it will actually end at a random time. So for example, if the auction runs for 7 days, and after the 7th day, it's going to pick a random time, say the 2nd day of the 10th hour. The actual auction is going to end, and we're going to pick a winner on the 2nd day, the 10th hour. And then basically whoever is the winner at that point will actually be the winner of the auction. So I'm just pause for 2 seconds there for you to sink in, right? So what that actually means is if you are not leading all the way in the auction, there's a chance that if you are not the winner at certain point in the auction, and then the auction actually randomly picks that time to end the auction, you will actually lose the auction. I hope that's clear, right? So so the whole point of us run the crowdfund module beforehand is so that I guess the best winning strategy here is just to be honest and then put in our best effort before the auction happens. So this actually encourages like honest and kind of upfront behavior in that way. So what it translates to, what we need to do is to put in all our best bid before the auction happens. So that's why we will encourage everybody to support the crowd loan module, like put in their best bid before the auction happens. So when we go into the auction, then we already have the best our best effort basically, right? And then if we can maintain that all the way through the auction, then we kind of guarantee winning the slot. But of course, if everybody collectively, if we put in all the best effort that we can, right? We still can't win, and that's just the market force. But later I'll show you the numbers. So hopefully we've done the best we can to actually support everybody, helping us to do this process. And then the next thing happened after the auction is, in a happy event that we win the auction, we launch our network, and basically, our genesis will be confirmed on the Kusama chain. And the next thing happened is, we'll have initial council members being appointed, and then the chain start operating. And we will also have a number of, collator nodes that we'll probably announce very shortly. A number of good collators going to help us to operate the chain. And then after that, there will be token distribution event happen, right? So you got to be a bit patient, because there's going to happen in batches of all the folks who get token distribution, and it will happen, in sequence. And then you will also see all the vesting schedules will be recorded on chain. So everybody is clear who's getting what, and also how long things are going to be vested and lock up, etc. And then once we go live, we will gradually enable all the functionalities, the stablecoin, and then we'll start minting them and then start circulating them. And also importantly, supporting the liquid staking, so folks have a place to use their KSM. And also there's a liquidity program, which I won't go into very much today, but just so all of you know that there will be liquidity program, because once you kind of launch the network, and all of you will be part of the community, and then you can participate in those programs, and there's additional reward that's been allocated, which I will also show some numbers very shortly. So these are the numbers. So I will just go through each one of those boxes. So to start with, at a very high level, the Karura network with the KR supply is 100 million, right? And this is a fixed number. So this is very important, right? So it's not an inflationary model. This is kind of like a fixed supply and kind of like a deflationary model, right? There's a reason behind it. I won't go into too much detail, but I'll just say one word, that one reason why a lot of the projects use inflationary is they have to keep supply the tokens to incentivize people to staking and then keeping the network secure. But of course, we are being pretty upfront here. We use Kusama's share security, so we don't need to, go into use inflationary model to actually to kind of sustain our network. And also, Ray Tao kind of alluded to very earlier on, we have a sovereign wealth fund. Right, we have a decentralized sovereign wealth fund that all the KR owners eventually is going to collectively own that wealth fund, right? And then part of the reason we have the wealth fund is going to collect enough KSM along the way that it can actually self-bidding for the auction in a number of years' time, once we get there, right? So, and then it's going to be self-sustaining without running an event like this almost every year. So in that case, then we are quite okay with a fixed supply, and then let it run on that. So that's one thing to start with. And then the second thing is, for this very first event, we are going to get out 11% of that 100 million tokens as reward. So we're using this term parajob. It's basically like an airdrop to reward people who's helping us to support us to win the auction, right? So it's 11% of that to reward to everyone. And then assuming we are bidding for 12 months lease period. So out of all the survey that all of you have filled in, I think about 36% have voted for 12 months as their ideal lease period. And even that is like 20 50+% actually voted for 24 months. So actually 50% or more of people who submitted their survey, their opinion, actually is willing to do 12 months or more. Obviously, at a project perspective, 24 months is good because there's stability. But of course, 12 months is probably reasonable for everybody. So we're kind of just assuming it's a 12-month lease period, and then 1 KSM that you put in, you're going to at least get 12 plus KAR. And I put 12 plus, we put 12 plus there is because you could potentially get more. Just depends on the participation. And also, we don't actually know for sure until the auction ends, right? Remember, the auction actually ends at a random time. And then we can actually calculate how much KSM support that we obtain, and then in translate into how much KR that you get. But from our calculation, we know at least you're going to getting 12 for each KSM support you put in. And knowing that you actually get your KSM back, right? So this is additional 12 KR that you are getting. And then the fourth box here, 30%, is for all the KRs that you're getting pair dropped, 30% of them will be liquid upfront. So when you get your token distribution, once we go live, 30% of them, you can use it immediately. You can trade it, you can transfer it, you can use it in any of those DeFi products there. And then the rest of them will be vested through the lease period. So it's going to be released gradually throughout the 12 months. And then we're just assuming it's 1 year lease period that we are aiming for. And then lastly, some of you will probably also notice a bonus referral program. So for everyone who's sign up for the wait list, fill out the survey form, later you will actually get an email with a referral link. So with that, you can actually share that with your contacts. If they all participate, then you get, so there will be a 10% additional bonus issued to those referrals. And then that 10% is going to be split between the referrer, as well as the referee. Well, the reason behind that is like, imagine you only giving that to the referrer, then why would people use your link, right? Why wouldn't they just sign up themselves? So it's kind of creating incentive both ways. And the reason we do that is because our hope is that this can actually attract as many KSM, community members as possible to help us bootstrap our network, so that hopefully we can give a bit more sort of reward to everyone who's helping us to that mission. So I hope that's clear. So I'll explain, all the kind of token distribution in the next slide. It's actually coming up. So with the KR token that you get, there are a bunch of utilities that you can use it for. So obviously it's a fee token for the native paying transaction fees. And also there will be a smart contract layer on top of Acala, that there will be many dApps building on top. So there's also a fee token for that. And then also later on, we're going to open up a pallet or runtime deployment and also smart contract deployment for everyone to use. But you kind of need staking because we're not using a model that just letting kind of random ICO contracts being dropped on Acala. I think we can actually do better by using a slightly different economic model for that. So your KR is also going to be used to support that effort. And of course, staking, nominating for collator nodes. And there's also a bunch of governance things that you can use KR for, especially for the vested tokens. Even though you can't transfer them, you can still use them for governance voting, right? Selecting council members, referendums, and also, there's a whole bunch of other things that you can get involved in. Right. So next thing, I think someone asked this question just now. So this is the token distribution. This is exactly the same as what we have on Acala, right? So I guess you can just read through those numbers. I think this will be made available later on. And the main thing is the reward that we are getting all of this out is like 34%. It's like the majority number of the tokens we're hoping to, in one way or another, distribute back to the ecosystem. So that will also include, the ecosystem fund as well, to actually gradually over the years to give out to people. But for the first year, we kind of given out, I think do the numbers, 19% out to the community. So I think I got the number, didn't update it. So it should be 12% that we actually allocate to the auction reward that everyone is going to get. And then 1% in total, roughly, is going to give out to the referral program to help, people spread the words. And then there's also additional 6% is going to be used for liquidity program, right? So total first year is like 19%. That we are kind of distributed out to the community. It is a significant number considering, it's kind of like more than half of our allocation. But we kind of thinking that, the first event is significant in terms of we are doing this in a unique way. I don't think anyone have done this before. It's kind of using this launch event as a bootstrap event. So I think it's worthwhile for any of those folks who's taking a risk on us and any of those folks who's trying this new kind of concept, helping teams to launch, actually get a lot more reward upfront. So that's that. So overall, this has happened next. So we are kind of at the first stage. Rococo is the testnet for all the parachains. So if everything goes well on Rococo network, they're going to launch on Kusama and Polkadot afterwards. So we're kind of still at this testing stage. And then you will probably get a clear signal once the testing complete. So, you'll hear probably Polkadot, hear from us that, testing is complete, everything looks cool. So the next thing happen is the parachain code and the auction code is going to be deployed on Kusama, right? And then obviously during that time, we'll probably have a date for you to say, please unlock your KSM and get ready for the crowd loan module to be ready, right? And then the crowd loan module will be deployed, will be started on the Kusama chain. And then all the 4 steps that I talk about will hopefully happen in sequence as we planned. So that's that. So we're still on here. So just like, that's why, it's good to just follow our, all our social media accounts, especially, Discord, and subscribe to newsletter. So we can actually get the up-to-date information to all of you, at the earliest. I think that's, all I want to talk about. Maybe I'll just hand it over back to Dan. You want to handle some questions maybe, or some other stuff that I missed? Yeah.
Thanks, Betty. Yeah, I think you covered everything we had in the deck, but we've got, I think, the most questions I've ever seen on Crowdcast. We've got 39 questions here. So, and also just check the chat box here. So the purple words that you see here on the slide, Robin has just pasted the links to all those if you're interested in any of those things that we mentioned. So what we'll do is go through the questions. I'll just kind of read them off, and then Betty and Rui Tao, we can just decide who will take it. And we'll just go from top to bottom because people have been upvoting these questions. So the first one is from David. When and how will the Acala public sale take place? I guess, Rui Tao, you can take that, but it's essentially what we just went over, not being a public sale.
Yeah, I think we are very focused on the actual Parachain auction for the Karura network right now, because we think it's a complete new way to join the network genesis, to participate in the network in a trustless way and also in a safe way. And no circumstance, if you join a Parachain auction, you are risking of losing the principal. And we think this is a great way to participate and join a network. So we don't have any definitive answer on when and how the Acala public sale will take place. It is like follow us on the mediums, and our primary focus now is to make sure that this auction process runs smoothly on the Karura network.
Cool. Next question was the same. When public sale? What assets are available as collateral in Karura at the initial launch?
Yeah, I think the bare minimum would be KSM, LKSM, which is the liquid version of KSM. And then there's gonna be a RAM BTC. We've teamed up with the RAM BTC team. There might be some other asset that may be available at the Kusama network at some stage. So there's actually a lot of team building on the Kusama network as well. Maybe there will be some Polkadot BTC maybe there will be some Ethereum. So we will see. But I would say the bare minimum would be the KSM, LKSM, and BTC.
So the next one was, how many KAR tokens do you get for every one KSM bonded? That was something that Betty covered, and it was 1 to 12.
Yeah, for
plus.
1 year lease. So the math is linear, right? So if it's a longer time, you just get double the amount. If it's 6 months, you just like half that. Yeah. So it's like a 12 minimum.
Yeah, and we need to emphasize this is the minimum amount of token. It might get depends on the participation. They might be larger, and that's the minimum.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that question like crowd loan equals public sale, so it's like not equal. For sale, you kind of swapping your potentially very valuable tokens to potentially potentially shitcoin, right? So it's certainly not a sale. The whole point of doing a parachain auction and then using the crowd loan module to do that is completely just avoid that, but still getting the benefit of community bootstrapping the network and also being able to reward those particular people who's supporting us. So yeah, hopefully that's clear now.
The next one was, what is the minimum amount of KSM for participation?
Yeah, I don't think they're actually going to be a minimum amount. Obviously, you cannot stake less than the dust amount of the Kusama network, which is I think 0.01. That's the minimum balance you have to maintain on the Kusama network. We would like the auction to be as open as possible, so I don't think it's going to be a minimum amount. So even 1 KSM would still work.
Cool. Vasily Yorkin asked, could you share the slides? So yes, what we can do is send, I can send a message to everyone in the room here today and just send you a link to the slides. We'll PDF it and send it over to you. Okay, this is a so.
Yeah, so I think that question regarding why even KAR or Karura exists, I kind of explained that in the why slide, but it's similar to why do you need a Kusama, right? So I think initially most of the focus is on Kusama as a test bed for Polkadot, but I think over the time it kind of evolved into a separate community because there will be folks launching purely and only on Kusama, just due to the characteristic of Kusama. It's faster, it's probably more experimental, and also lower cost or lower barrier of entry into Kusama versus Polkadot. So for that reason, then Acala pretty much just opened a DeFi decentral bank branch on Kusama and serving all of those folks who's going to open shop on Kusama, and hence why Karura exists. And by saying that, that's probably going to be majority of the functionality and use case are for, but also a small percentage of the reason is also Karura is going to be a test bed for Acala because a lot of the financial products you just can't just like launch mainnet and then test on mainnet and hope for the best, right? So Karura is still going to be the test bed for many of our new experimental products, and then try out different risk parameters, and then be a good data, store for us to actually verify a lot of our theories before actually fully launch on Polkadot or Acala. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, and I think I can maybe chip in some of my thought as well. I think we can see Kusama as a mainnet. It's more of like an entrepreneur sport, in contrast to a mainboard. So think about on Polkadot right now. If you want to do some very aggressive strategy or deployments, that might be rejected by the council because it's the bank grade safety. But the more aggressive stuff of innovation might happen on Kusama first, and if it proven to be successful, then it can slowly migrate to Polkadot. The same thing happened to Karura and Acala as well. So let's say someone want to deploy an extremely aggressive or experimental contract or application that might be rejected by the Acala network, but they might be accepted by the Karura network to as a proof ground to make sure that everything's safe because we roll out on the mainnet. So I think it's like an entrepreneur which is more aggressive, which more adventurous, right on the Karura network, and on the mainboard, which is like bank grade security.
Okay, how big of a role do you think Acala will play in the whole Polkadot ecosystem? I can maybe start answering this, and then you guys can chip in. One thing that I wanted to mention that I think is pretty incredible that Brian, one of the lead developers at Acala, has done. He actually taught a course in China for educating people on how to build with Substrate. That course went so well. There were developers coming out of that getting jobs in the ecosystem. It went so well that it was actually replicated and started in New Zealand with an organization there that I see Ray Liu in the room who's been helping out a lot with this. But there's a course that Acala's CTO is leading right now to educate, I think, around 40 to 60 developers to become super deep in Substrate, which not only is helping Acala, but it's helping and serving the entire Polkadot and Kusama ecosystem. So that's just one example I wanted to mention of Acala being pretty selfless and helping to grow the ecosystem along with everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I would definitely like to see that Acala play an important role in the whole Polkadot ecosystem. And as I mentioned earlier, we always in the belief that this is not a zero-sum game. So if Acala is achieving a lot, that's great. That's great for the whole Polkadot ecosystem. That's great for dot holders. That's great for Kusama holder. That's great for the Acala holders. So it's like we will be trying to do as much, to contribute as much as we can to make sure that Acala has its role in the Polkadot ecosystem, hopefully the most prominent role, and grow with all the other ecosystem players. And the other idea that we think is that we would like to see Polkadot to achieve its full potential, which is like 100 parachain, a lot of different specialized network, and that's where this model shines, right? So if one project succeeds, actually bring the success, share the same success story with other projects, and ultimately, I wouldn't say how big it will be. It's limitless. We're very ambitious of what we're trying to do. We think this is like super exciting for what we see, how Polkadot may evolve, how Acala may evolve.
Next is, what can you do with the tokens like LDOT, and they mentioned XBTC?
Well, obviously you can transfer that, which is give you a shot of freedom for your stake asset. You can use as collector to generate loans, giving some time value. So if you think about that, if you are collectorize your Bitcoin or LDOT, you are spending future DOT or future Bitcoin, which I think we all believe is going to appreciate. So maybe it's very smart to do it not in a not too aggressive way, but I think there's a lot more utility that you can do with XBTC, with RAMBTC, with LDOT.
I think for the first time you can put your BTC in use in a proof of stake, economics. Yeah. So you can actually earn staking reward, without actually selling or without liquidating your BTC balance. Yeah. I think that's what I want to do. So hopefully we can go live quickly, then I can actually use that feature.
Okay, here's another long one. You guys gave a basic example of the KAR lockup receiving linear rewards for the set duration. For example, 6 months equals 5 KAR, 12 months could equal 10. But wouldn't it be better if the rewards based on duration of lockup was exponential? They said like what Plasm did, for example.
Yeah, so that's two different ways of launching, because for launching on Polkadot or Kusama, the lease period is fixed. So before we go into the auction, we need to specify how long the lease period will be. So we actually have to say that upfront. So that actually means everyone who's supporting us will actually get the same lease period and then the same sort of reward for that. So that's a difference in terms of you kind of just arbitrarily locking your tokens on Ethereum and then getting some other airdrop. It's actually different because this way is like the lease period is the period we're getting share security from Kusama. So it's kind of like a different mechanism. So it's kind of keeping it simple that we just tell people upfront how much they're getting or minimum they're getting. Yeah, for that.
Yeah, and I also want to chip in that this Parachain auction has never been done before, and this is like experimental. It's not experimental; it's like some new product. We want to make sure that we do the math right, without inflating too much supply. So I think what we come up with, the number that we come up with, is like after studying the survey results from the 20,000 plus participants with the indication, I think we come up with a number that's reasonable and has a lot more upward potential for the network to grow.
Yeah, and Ace P asked in the chat over here, is there only one lease period? So for Karura itself, there's only one, but each parachain can choose a different lease period. So for Karura, yes, there will only be one lease period, same for Acala, but it can depend based on the parachain.
Yeah, and I think maybe Ace means that is it the only one auction? So after 1 year. So actually, there's gonna be when the 1 year ends, there might be another auction coming up. Depends on how the treasury is doing. So there's might be a way to participate 1 year later. But I think the best way to get in is definitely now, because the very first Parachain auction is the most interesting Parachain auction.
Next is another question from David. He said, will there be a lockup period for the crowd loan investors or for the Parachain auction supporters?
Yeah, I think Betty already showed that on the slide. So 30% of the amount is actually going to distribute upfront. Actually, I think the network is going to distribute the whole amount upfront with a vesting schedule. So 30% of the token will be transferable, usable, can be used for liquidity providing, can be used on the DEX. The other 70% will be vested on the per block basis, because we think this is more of like a committed way of liquidity mining. Obviously, because the whole amount as it will be distributed to the wallet upon genesis. That means the whole amount can be used in governance, in take participation in the network. So that's pretty cool. That means your whole amount can be used to vote the process of like changing the interest rate, adjust the characterization ratio. So we would like to have full participation on the network. So yeah, I hope that answered the question.
Okay. So we're 7 minutes past the hour and we still have a lot here. We'll try to answer a few more.
Yeah,
and then
maybe answer three more questions.
Yep. Okay, so how does the crowd loan module work? Is it first come, first serve, or is it who puts the most KSM gets the most KAR?
Well, I think it's open for everyone, and it is not first comes first serve. It is we are trying to make sure there's an opportunity for everyone to participate as well. There would be I wouldn't say there would be an upper limit. So it's like the best strategy to go is to put in your KSM upon the announcement, because there's no difference of when you put it in. Yeah, and regarding like who put in the most KSM will get the most KAR, I think the distribution is linear. So, but again, we are trying to. We don't have any cap. We don't have any minimum cap. We don't have any maximum cap. So it should be like an equal opportunity for everyone.
Next is, what are okay, so Betty covered this. What are the incentives for holding KAR token other than governance? And it was that whole utility slide that Betty showed. Do you want to add anything to that, Betty?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a whole bunch of utility that you can use KAR for, and also just be mindful of KAR holders are actual stakeholders of the network, right? So that means not only you vote, you also collectively own the treasury, the wealth fund. And given that, as all of us will actually support the network to grow, then you can reach all of those states that we all collectively kind of like manage all of that together, right? So I guess what we're trying to say here, ourselves are kind of long-term, very, very long-term, like committed to building this project to what we promised in our white paper, right? So, and then we're hopefully attracting similar kind of like-minded people here as well, but along the way, kind of like rewarding everyone or incentivize everyone to come a long way with us. So hopefully that kind of makes sense to everyone after today's explanation.
Yeah, and the slide that Betty covered earlier will be in the presentation that we send out afterwards in the link. So just watch out for that, and you can go back and reference that slide. We've had actually a repeat question a couple times in the chat about ERC20 tokens being available on Karura and Acala. Do you guys want to cover that?
I don't think there's like the so we are building Karura and Acala as like a parachain on Polkadot. So ERC20 is an Ethereum standard. So we actually have the Polkadot token standards pretty much within the Acala network and within the Karura network and within the wider Polkadot ecosystem. So if you're asking that if there going to be an ERC20 representation of the Karura and Acala token traded on Ethereum at some stage, obviously, I don't think there's going to be something upon Genesis, but there's bridges to Ethereum. So maybe at some stage, someone will create a representation of that on Ethereum. And the token that's trading on top of Acala and Karura, there will be similar to ERC20. They have the same fungible mechanism of tokens. They'll be circulating, but I wouldn't call them exactly like ERC20.
And then the other way around actually works, right? Because on our EVM, there will be ERC20. There will be ERC 721 for non-fungible. And then, like just like a straight up example, Ampleforce, when they come to Acala or actually come to Polkadot through Acala, they deploy their smart contract on our EVM. And that's like the ERC20 like token, right? And the cooler thing beyond just the EVM that we offer is, the Ample is going to be able to be cross-chain as well as be used as a native token for paying fees, right? So the things that you can't just do straight in the EVM platform that we can actually offer on Acala. I think that's, a short answer is like, yes, you're going to have ERC20, but it's not just going to be like a simple token representation. It can do actually a lot more programmable things on Acala platform. So I think we just have to wait and see for when that happens. It's going to be super cool.
Cool.
Yeah, I think there's several questions asking about the vesting schedule. So there's some information we can share. So I would say that the team vesting schedule, definitely there's going to a vesting schedule for the founding team. It's going to be a very harsh vesting schedule. We are committed. We are fully committed in building this project in long term. The team wouldn't success without the project being successful first. So there will be more information or actual changes being released in the Karura network at some stage once we're close to launch. And there's definitely vesting schedule on the investor round as well. So we're going to release that information at some stage. Just follow us, and when we're getting close to the auction process, all the information will be made available. And I would say that the initial only the circulation coming from will be coming from the Parachain auction rather than from the team or from the investors.
Okay. I think we've hit a lot of questions, so I think we can call it there. The questions are going to be saved, so what I'll do is just go through the questions, and if any of them are not repeat questions, I will include those in like a brief Q&A within the email that I send everybody, which includes the PDF of the slides. So thanks everyone for joining. I know it's late or early or maybe during lunch. Everyone's all over the world, so we appreciate your time and coming to learn about Karura and Acala. Hopefully you enjoyed this and learned something, and just watch out for future events or updates from us in our social channels, and we'd love to see you guys here again.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.